Good morning, good evening, friends. Welcome to my channel, Ek Kitab Se Ek Moti, which in English means a pearl or gem from one book. Today, I'm going to read from a very short book. It's titled "Life is Tremendous," and it's been written by Charlie Tremendous Jones, a great motivator and a great writer. Before I start reading from this book, let me mention what this book is all about. So it consists of certain laws of leadership and also the three decisions in life that each of us needs to make, and about leaders being readers and so on. But what really is the core of this book, or the essential part of this book, is a set of 7 laws which he calls the 7 laws of leadership. So let me just briefly mention the 7 laws, and then I'm going to talk about one of the laws that I've picked from this list. So the 7 laws, according to Charlie Tremendous Jones, are these: get excited about your work, use or lose, production to perfection, give to get, exposure to experience, flexible planning, and motivated to motivating. So since these are laws, these are applicable to everyone, applicable at every place, and applicable every time. I mean, there is no limitation of time, place, or any other limitation that you can put on an idea. So it'll work for you, it'll work for me, it'll work for someone who is in the US, it'll work for someone who is in India. So there are no regional limitations at all. There are no racial limitations, there are no linguistic limitations, and there are no religious limitations. I mean, whatever limitation you can think of, they don't apply here, because these are laws, just like gravity. I mean, gravity works for everyone. It doesn't make any distinctions. So the law that I'm going to read about today is called Production to Perfection, and it's a very short text. I think maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. I think even fewer than 4 paragraphs. And then once I have read about this law, once I have read what Charlie Tremendous Jones has to say about this law, I'll just briefly discuss it and I'll conclude the video. So this video, I hope, is going to be a pretty short one. The third law of leadership: production to perfection. I'm sorry. Once in a while, I meet a man who says, I don't believe in going off half-cocked. When I do something, it's got to be perfect. I don't know if you heard about Sam's clothing store, but Sam was quite a guy. He knew about the law of production to perfection. One day, John came in to see Sam. He says, "Sam, I want to buy a suit." Sam says, "Shh." He said, "What do you mean, shh? We don't sell suits here." John said, "What are all these things?" Sam said, "Well, when you come in here to buy a suit, it's not, here, walk over this way. It's not as if we could sell you one off the rack. When you come in here to buy a suit, it's a project. We make it an affair. We have got to know the real you. We have got to know your attitude and your aptitude, your likes and your dislikes. And when you get to know the real you, we pick the right wool that fits you. We even go to England to pick the right sheep that fits you. And the silk lining, we go to Japan to get the right silk. We even pick out the right worm. And the buttons, we go to Alaska to pick the elk that fits you. John interrupts. "Wait a minute, Sam. I've got to have a suit today." Sam purrs. "You'll have it." Now it's Charlie Tremendous Jones talking. Before this, it was a dialogue actually between 2 characters, Sam and John. "Now, I believe in doing things right. In fact, one of my frequent prayers, the cry of my heart, is, 'Oh God, let me do one thing right before I die.' But I add, 'In the meantime, Lord, help me do something.' There is a law that says if you are not learning to make something happen today, you won't know much about perfection tomorrow. As a young salesman, I was learning this every step of the way. As a husband, father, Sunday school teacher, You name it, my heart delighted in doing something because while it might have been better had I waited a little longer, many of those somethings might not have been done at all. If you major in perfection, you'll produce little more than dreams. But production will teach you a little about perfection in daily living. Let me repeat this last passage. If you major in perfection, you'll produce little more than dreams. But production will teach you a little about perfection in daily living. So the law is production to perfection. That is, production precedes perfection. That is, production comes before perfection and not the other way around. Many people reverse this order. So, for example, they try to become perfect at something before they attempt any task. Here, let me give a few examples to illustrate this law, or to shed some light on this law that's called production to perfection. I think it's better to call it production precedes perfection. That way, the relationship between these two concepts is quite clear. So, what comes before? Production comes before, and then perfection is a lifelong project, actually. I don't think anyone can reach perfection. It's an ideal, just like a goal, or just like, in fact, goals can be achieved, but let's just widen this concept of perfection, and let's just think of certain other things where perfection is an ideal. So, for example, ethical behavior, I mean, that's an ideal. I don't think there is anyone in the world who's 100% good. So that's an ideal, just like Gandhiji used to say, perfection is an ideal, and we keep moving towards that ideal throughout our lives. Take the example of our own careers, our jobs, the jobs that we do, or the business we are in. So I don't think any of us can claim to be perfect in those areas. We keep learning every day. Take language, for instance. No one can say that he or she has mastered the language, even if if the language is his or her mother tongue. So I don't think a British can say that he or she has mastered the language. An author of the caliber of Ruskin, that is one of the best English authors of Victorian times, of the Victorian era, he used to say that it takes a lifetime to master one's mother tongue, although his language was excellent. I mean, anyone who wants to know to what heights the English language can reach should read his masterpiece, Unto This Last. It's a work on political economy. I think it's based on 4 lectures that he delivered in London or someplace in England, and the language is just amazing. I mean, very few people can use English the way Ruskin has used it, but he had to be humble and had to say that it takes a lifetime to be a master of one's mother tongue. So he knew that he had to still continue to improve his English language skills. But without digressing, let's come to this law, which is production precedes perfection. Let me illustrate it with a few more points that are relevant to our lives. So let's say we want to do something new. Let's say we want to start a new project in our lives or some new activity. So it's not that we should wait before we do that for a long time, just trying to know everything about it before we start doing it. For instance, there are a few people who want to start a YouTube channel on, let's say, the skills that they possess, so that the world benefits from that. So if you wait for perfection, for example, linguistic perfection, that you should be perfect in your language before you start, that you should have all the equipment before you start, that you should have this, I think it's called a tripod, right, where you have the camera, that you should have a proper studio, proper table, proper lighting, and proper editing skills of that, the video that you capture or record, that you should have an excellent phone or excellent camera to do that. You need to have a laptop. You need to have several other tools. And then once you have all these things, and once you have gained some knowledge, theoretical knowledge of how to present your ideas, that you should have knowledge of presentation skills and so on, then it's very it's kind of demotivating. That is, you first do a lot of preparation in advance and then you start doing it, and so that there is also some fear in that, starting a new activity, that fear of ridicule, or maybe fear of not doing as well as one could, and so on. So what I'm trying to say is, if you think too much before doing an activity, or if you prepare too much before starting, then you might just never start. The world doesn't work that way. According to this law, you start doing something with whatever knowledge you have, with whatever equipment you have, with whatever tools you have, and then you start doing that activity. You get involved in that activity, and slowly you'll see that you'll start improving. You'll be moving towards perfection. So, for example, I know about a YouTuber called Myron Golden. So he started his YouTube channel using a simple phone, and now he's a great motivator. I mean, he had already been a great motivator, but now he has a studio and he has people working for him, and they help him in the editing of his videos, and so they have proper lighting, and their thumbnails are great. But he didn't begin that way. When he began, he just started with whatever knowledge he had, whatever tools he had, and with whatever resources he had. And once he started putting these ideas into practice, he became successful, and he's kind of moving towards perfection. But as I said, perfection is forever an ideal, so we need to act. So let me see if I can put this law in different words. So it's like you act, and then the perfection will slowly start showing in that activity. I think it was Emerson who said, "Act, and all the resources of the world would start helping you," or "Do what you fear, and the fear shall disappear or vanish." I think something like that. So also when you give importance to perfection instead of to production, that is, you give more importance to ideas and certain ideal pictures that you have in mind, that this is how I need to do certain things before I started. What it does is it kind of reduces the chances of your ever taking action. It kind of creates this paralysis of analysis. I'm not sure whether that's the phrase, but it kind of paralyzes our desire to act, or our faculty of action. So the world doesn't work that way. You first put your ideas into practice, and then you keep learning, and then you develop yourself. I'll give you my example. When I became a technical writer a long time ago, I thought that before I began to write excellent documents, I should know everything about the English language, that I should know its grammar, that I should enlarge my vocabulary, and then that I should know everything about the principles of writing, and that's when I'll start documenting my stuff. But the world doesn't work that way, and you don't have so much time. You'll need years to enlarge your vocabulary, and to totally master the grammar of English. You'll need years, or at least a year, I think, or at least 3-4 months, right? So I can't be waiting for my mastery of grammar, and then I'll start writing my documents. The world doesn't work that way. So first, give importance to action, and perfection would follow, or something close to perfection. I'll give you another example. I wrote a book on the Bhagavad Gita a long time ago. So if I had waited for a perfect knowledge of Sanskrit, or a perfect knowledge of English, a perfect knowledge of how to write books, I wouldn't have written that book at all. I wrote despite some limitations. So my knowledge of Sanskrit is very basic, but I made use of some translations because I believe that in order to understand some these ancient books, you just need to know the meanings of individual words in your modern language, whichever language you are most familiar with, or whichever language you find easy to handle. So I tried to know the meaning of each word in the Bhagavad Gita, and based on that, I used my own brains to analyze the message of the Gita. So if I had waited for a perfect knowledge of Sanskrit, a perfect knowledge of the contents of the Bhagavad Gita, and if I had tried to know what every other commentator had already said about it, I would have never started that work. I'll give you another example. In some call centers, there is this accent training for a month or so. So they spend a lot. In my case, I worked for Amritanjan International Call Center several years ago. So we spent about a month learning American accent, American geography, American culture, the place names, the geographical locations, the different time zones, selling skills, and so on. But all that was theory. We learned that for a month. But when the real thing came, most of us just started kind of faltering, and we started making a lot of mistakes while trying to sell. So we forgot about all those theoretical principles that we had learned. And so we had to learn through practice, and practice taught us more than those 30 days or so of training. So the idea behind the 30 days training was that we'll first kind of train ourselves and make us, although the aim was not to make us perfect, but the idea was that we'll put a lot of theoretical things in the brains of the trainees, that is us, in our brains, and that'll improve our performance. But I don't think that really helped us a lot. What really helped us a lot was the real encounter, or when we started doing the real sales and started talking to people from the US. That's when we developed our skills. We had different projects where some projects involved selling remortgage plans, and when we were selling cell phones, I think we had to sell cell phones along with the service provider, the offers that were being provided by certain service providers. We had to talk about those things. So we learned more by doing than we learned from a theoretical understanding of how to sell and how to speak customers and so on. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not that theoretical understanding is not important and this aiming at perfection is not important, but perfection doesn't happen this way. That is, you don't first become perfect and then you act. The principle says you act with whatever knowledge you have, with whatever tools and resources you have, and then perfection would follow it. Perfection doesn't precede production. Action is the beginning. In fact, you get some ideas on how to do a task, then you act, and then you gain some knowledge, and then you so it's like a cycle spiral, sorry, it's like a spiral. So you first do some preparation, you act, you gain more knowledge, then you act again, you gain more knowledge, you prepare better, and then you act again. So each time your knowledge increases, your action becomes better and better, and you gradually move towards perfection. I hope I didn't confuse you using that example. So to recapitulate, what this law says is the world works this way. Production precedes perfection. You first start doing the things that you want to be good at, and gradually you'll become good at that thing. But if you wait for the perfect time, the perfect place, the perfect opportunity, that may not happen. You start doing things and things will start improving. So I'm sorry, before I end the video, let me try to remember the quotation of Churchill. I think he said, Give us the tools and we'll finish the job. So you have your tools, you have a God-given brain, you have access to the technology. Today, I mean, we are living at a time where we all can access the greatest of books on our phones, and we all have access to high-speed internet. We all can do something, in our lives with whatever tools we have. So I don't think there is any complaint about not having any tools. Almost everyone can access the best resources nowadays on their phones. You can access good books, you can access good videos on how to do certain tasks well. You can make your videos, you can start a YouTube channel. So there is no excuse for anyone. So let me repeat that quotation again and end the video. Give us the tools and we'll finish the job. Thanks for watching.